rights, which cannot be taken away from him or her. So, in your own view, what is human right?
Yeah, I think he has articulatively defined what human rights are. It's our inalienable right, and nobody should be violated of his or her right. And such right, just like he said, include right to life, right to bodily integrity, the right to freedom of expression. So these are some of the rights that we have as human beings, and nobody should in any way take that away from us.
Okay. Now, fine face. Let's look at human rights now from the youth's perspective. Youth stand up for human rights. What do you understand by that?
Well, that is the theme of the 2019 International Human Rights Day, a day set aside by United Nations to commemorate human rights on every December 10, in remembrance and on the anniversary of the December 10 Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. So the theme this year is youth standing up for human rights. So it is a theme put together by the UN as a global call to action for youths around the world that are constructive and also able to drive these rights processes as a way of recognizing their effort, stimulating them to do more, and to let them understand that the UN, the world, understand the role they are playing as young people in the push towards the protection of human rights around the world. So that is what that theme is all about, and it's very, very important this
Does
year
it
for
mean
that
that
theme to
youths
come
have
up.
not been involved all this while?
They have been involved, but in a way, they may not know that those their involvement, those their effort to protect and defend the rights of people are being recognized and are being watched. So this statement of youth standing up for human rights is to let the elders know that youths are standing up for human rights. And what are these efforts they are putting together? They now brought that to the fore through this team for the world to know that the youths are doing it. So the team is aimed at recognizing the efforts and perspectives and contributions of youth towards the fight for the protection, defense, and promotion of human rights anywhere in the world.
All right. Now, Jennifer, you tell us your own view. But let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. Before we went on that break, we were trying to find out from Jennifer why the emphasis on youths now, and in what ways have youths been involved in human rights advocacy before this time?
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, I'm still a young person, I'm a youth, and so when I saw that team, first of all, I celebrated myself because I'm working, protecting the rights of women and girls, and so I felt, man, UN, they are so smart to recognize the work of amazing young people all over the world. And I must say this, in the world today, we have about 1.8 billion people who are below 30 years in the world, and trust me, this is the largest population of young people the world has ever seen in history. So with this number, it is very important to know that young people, youth, are critical, to um achievement of the sustainable development goals. They are critical, they are very important, because one, the sustainable development goal is made in a way that it's supposed to deliver the needs of the present generation without compromising also the needs of the future generation. So if that is how it's supposed to be, that means young people are critical. They're supposed to be at the heart of the implementation of the sustainable development goals, and there cannot be sustainable development goal without dignity, without human rights, without enshrining all the elements of the SDGs into human rights, because we can't implement anything, neglecting people's dignity, neglecting people's rights, violating their rights. For instance, right to freedom of expression. That is very, very important.
Okay. So, Fine Face, you're the one that mentioned that youths have been involved in advocacy and all that. Can you throw more light on that?
Yes, I think the youths have been at the forefront of.
First of all, Fine Face, who is a youth? Because in Nigeria
Yeah,
today,
that's the next
today
I
we
wanted to
find
say.
we find 50-year-old people claiming they are youths.
Exactly. I think let's define youths. Who is a
Okay.
youth?
Okay.
Well, basically, we can peg the ages, the age bracket within which a person can be called a youth between 18 and 35. But in Nigeria, it's even extended to about 45. You will see about 45-year-old man still claiming to be a youth. But the point remains that in as much as you still have the energy, you still have the strength, you are still fit to drive this process, you are welcome to the bracket of those who are pushing this youth advocacy for rights protection in Nigeria and around the world. So the point here remains that the youth have been playing a vital role in the fight against human rights abuses and violations, and the struggle, the campaign to actually protect the rights of the people. We've mentioned, you have youth taking up all the effort. If you look at the climate change
Yes.
campaign going on in Spain and other parts of the world last year and this year, you see that the youth are at the forefront of this drive. Here in Nigeria too, most of those who are at the forefront of the campaign for the defense and protection of human rights are young people. That is why the team is very apt in recognizing the effort of these young people in doing that. Here in Rivers State, or let me say Niger Delta, for instance, I have also been at the forefront of driving these processes. I go from school to school, university to university, colleges to colleges, talking to young people and educating them on human rights, let them understand their right as enshrined in the Constitution. So the basic tool we use is to introduce what human rights is all about. We go into the 1948 document of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, then we come into the Nigerian Constitution to let them understand their basic human rights as young people, as students that are coming up. We believe that the moment they have this consciousness about what human rights are, they will not be able to violate the rights of the next person, and the next person will also respect their rights. And if that is done, there will be need to have a society without much conflict.
Now, Fine Face, can you tell
Okay,
us?
sorry, let me just
okay,
add something.
okay.
Yeah, just to add the definition of youth. Actually, we have a definition in Nigeria according to the National Youth Policy 2018. A youth in Nigeria is someone between the ages of 15 to 29 years old. That is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Fine Face, you say you go from school to school, universities to university, talking about human rights. Now, let's break it down. What are some of those rights? You've mentioned right to life, that once a child is born, you have the right to life. So tell us other rights. Assuming you are in that school or that university, giving a talk on human rights, can you enlighten us on some of those rights?
Yeah, the rights we are talking about here is human rights, and human rights is universal. Whether you are black, you are red, you are young, old, whoever you are, you enjoy this right. And it was driven from the 1948 documents into the Nigerian Constitution in 1960, which we have today in the 1999 Constitution. These rights are in Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. It include rights to life, rights to liberty, rights to freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of thoughts, rights to, for you not to be abused of torture. You also have right to, privacy. You also have right to own property. You also have different other forms of rights as they are enshrined in that constitution. So all these rights, including the right to correspondence and, communication. Like you have a phone, and if you think your phone has been tapped and you find anybody that's tapped your phone, that is a violation of your rights of privacy to communication. So you can raise alarm and seek redress in those processes. So when the youth get to understand all this in the process of their growing up, it becomes easier for them to know when they are about to violate the rights of the next person, because where your own rights ends, another person's right begins. Okay, so you have to be conscious of this right. If you are conscious of this right, it will be easier for you not to violate the rights of the next person, and friction in society will be reduced. Because if this right, the knowledge about this right are not well shared, it becomes a problem to society, and conflict is likely going to be very serious. Like most of the conflict we have in the parts of the Niger Delta today is because the people do not understand their rights. If you understand your rights,
can you give an example of such conflicts and what resulted in it?
Well, we have some conflict amongst young people, like courtesan, conflict that involves some of these youth that are involved in, let me say, art of oil theft and artisanal refining, because some of their actions contribute to the environmental pollution and violate the rights of other people to safe environment and safe health. So these are some of the rights that I think that if we have full knowledge of what it means, we can be able to address. And that's why we keep calling on the government to make provision for alternative means of livelihoods for some of these people, so that they are away from that, because we are campaigning to see how we can have the environment protected and the rights of the people restored, so that even fishermen and farmers that depend on the environment and the ecosystem to have their own livelihoods, the moment the environment is destroyed, their rights to life is even threatened. So it becomes imperative for people to understand what these rights are all about.
All right, Jennifer, let's look at the torture. Human rights is against torture, but we find out that people get arrested and they'll be awaiting trial for years without anybody looking into their case, and they continue like that for years, and nobody cares. Do you think is the right thing to do in Nigeria? And what do you think is the way forward from that?
Okay, yes, I'm going to push that question to Mr. Fireface. Yes.
Okay, let me ask
Yes.
you another question now. As a woman, you work with women, you work with girls. Let's look at issues of violation of human rights as per rape and sexual violence against women.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is actually something that beats close to my heart, and I think nobody, I repeat again, nobody deserves to be violated. Being a girl or a woman, you do not deserve to be raped or to be sexually harassed or violated. Just like when I was coming to the studio, I heard on the radio, a woman that she's been frequently beaten by her husband, and people are just like saying she should still remain in the marriage. And for me, that is a violation of her right, and her right to life is at stake actually, and is threatened, and that should not be tolerated. So I think the system has to be in a way that women and girls are able to have access to justice, able to have access to redress, and also have access to, should I say, protection of their rights, to just make sure that they are safe. Because
Jennifer, are you saying that if a woman is beaten up by the husband, she should run away from the marriage?
I think she should just report. That man needs to be, addressed. He needs to be, he needs to be
Report
called
to who
order.
now?
Report to the police. You have a system that is in place. Yes, there's a gender desk at every police station. She should go there and report. So that
Taking your husband to the police station, how do you think people will look at it? Do you think that marriage will still continue after that?
I think we're talking about rights to life right now, and if there is no life, there is no marriage. We all know. So if there is no life for the woman, I wonder who the man is going to get married to.
I feel that will, put more fire in that friction in the family. It will kind of escalate.
But generally, we're talking about respect for human rights. And for us, I'm a woman, for women and girls, when their right to life is threatened, everything is threatened. Because one, even the society in itself is threatened. So I think it is very important that women and girls' rights are protected, that we make sure that the society is safe enough for women and girls all over the places, wherever they are. Because one, we're talking about human rights. And remember, these human rights cannot be fulfilled if it's not fulfilled in a smaller place, for instance, in the family. Because one, just like Eleanor Roosevelt said, she said that these rights are in small places, and if they are not fulfilled in small places that are not in the map, they cannot be fulfilled in larger world, in the larger society. So it actually starts from these small places, in the family, the church, the school. So we have to make sure that women and girls' rights are protected. We have to make sure that they are safe from rape, they are safe from sexual violence, they are safe from psychological violence, they are safe from other forms of violence.
All right, Fireface, you may have one or two things to say about the issues Jennifer has raised.
Yes,
issues of violence against women and girls.
Is condemnable. And when
do you think the African man, the Nigerian man, has been fair to a large extent on their relationship with their wives?
Well, I can't say they have not been fair. They have been fair, but there is no society without crisis. Marriage is an institution. There is no institution without crisis also. Now, why it is difficult and those crisis situations are likely going to arise in marriage is that you have two people that have two different backgrounds coming together under one roof. Once in a while, they will have some issues, but the ability to address that issue amongst themselves, it what makes that home a better home to live. But then when there are certain violations, like those torture that happen, violence against women, maybe the woman, you want her to do something and she doesn't want to do that thing, and you force her to do it, you have violated her right to freedom of thought and conscience.
I'm happy this is coming from a man.
Yeah, so
are you for real, Fireface?
So her conscience is that right is not being violated, and when you beat her, you are violating more right by torturing her.
Yeah.
So all those things are frowned at by the constitution and the laws of Nigeria. So what I think needs to be done at that point in time, the first port of call shouldn't be the police station. Now, within the marriage institution, there are persons that are involved. You start by reporting, notifying one or two persons that were involved in the marriage processes, maybe from parents to the church to elders, and then they start looking into the matter.
Don't you think that will make the crisis escalate? Because
that is when, in between the two of you, there is a kind of love lost. You cannot bear this again, and a third party needs to come in. Otherwise, if there is crisis at any point in time, it is expected that two of them will still sit back and look at where mistakes come from, address it, forgive themselves, and go on in life. Remember, it is the smallest chain in the world is the wedding ring. The moment it is on your fingers, you are chained and imprisoned in marriage forever. So you need to understand that fact and then be able to work out your marriage. Marriage needs to be worked out. If you think everything will be smooth every day, then it is not perfect. And each time there is crisis, there is a new thing to be learned. And that becomes the way to address some of those issues. But when there is a total breakdown of the system and the situation, then you can report to the police. It's very important that you report while you are still alive than to be reported when you are dead by virtue of the torture and violence from the man.
All right,
From the
Jennifer,
woman.
there's a high rate of divorce in the society today. What do you think is responsible? Is it that the women have become? Is it that women are too educated and they've known their rights, or they're overbearing? There are certain things they don't want to endure again in the marriage. What do you think is the cause of rate of divorce in our society today?
Absolutely. Okay. I think I'll just have to come from academic angle, please. Just let me.
And we
come
also
from
have
that.
reported cases of violence in the society. You know, man rising up to kill the wife, wife rising up to kill the husband. The stories are so much these days.
Yeah. I think for instance like there is information right now, so there's a lot of information and people are going to school. Some women are going to school, and remember, the more you go to school, the more you understand things, and the more you can, should I say, the less tolerable you have to like tolerate some certain things that happen. So what I think is that yes, divorce happen, and it's not a good thing, but if that has to save your life, is a good thing actually. And again, people are beginning to understand the role of religion and tradition to marriage. So now if you look at it, people are able to like live their life outside religion and outside tradition. People are beginning to see that, one, if I have to remain in this marriage, because just like Mr. Fife said, that small ring is a, what do you call it?
It's a chain.
It's a chain, yeah. So if I have to allow myself to be chained forever, and that leads to my death, I think I won't be fair to myself. So there's something called self-care. So you have to like analyze the situation, and when it doesn't fit you, when it doesn't suit you well, then walk away. So I think the social media also is helping, because one, young women are more enlightened. If they don't go to school, that is, they've opened up their hearts to learn new things, to look at situation, knowing that their mothers actually took a whole lot. So right now there is wave of feminism. We are in the fourth wave, where women are being taught to appreciate themselves, are taught to see themselves as whole, not necessarily marriage making you whole as it used to be. So because of this, so women are, should I say young women, let me not use the word women, so young women are quick to pull out of marriage when they see that it doesn't serve them any longer.
Do you think it's a good thing? Because the thing is recurring. I don't think it's potentially good for our society.
I think it depends. It's individual.
Because it's easy to walk away, but what follows after that?
Yeah, but whatever that follows, remember, the right to life is number one. I think when we look at it, first of all, how safe am I here? Yes, you have to define that for yourself, because one, when you go to church for your pastor to define that, he will tell you to stay, and even though you're being killed, stay. And this is my personal view. I believe that women kill their husband, and husband kills their wife, boyfriend kills girlfriend, girlfriend kills. And I remember that before the killing, before it gets to the extent of killing,
There are signs.
Exactly.
Signs, yeah.
So what do? Because one, if you kill anybody because your rights was violated, I think you go to prison. Trust me, you must go to prison. So to deliver yourself from going to that prison, please walk away. That's my position.
Fine face. Do you think
Yes.
walking away is the solution to this thing?
Yeah, but before
And
then,
let's look at the rate of divorce in the
the rate
society.
of divorce. In fact, I don't think that time will permit us to really discuss. I have a lot
let's-
boiling in my head when you mention this.
Let's make an
Now,
attempt.
some of the issues that are really leading to high rate of divorce in society today, I can use a political science theory called the reference group theory. A lot of women, a lot of men are not contented in their marriage. They try to compare their marriages and their lifestyle and how things are going in terms of resources with others. That it becomes difficult. The other guy is doing like this, my wife is not doing like this, the other man is doing like, my husband is not doing like, before you know. And then information and communication technology is also helping to contribute to the breakdown of marriages. They go on Facebook, social media, and other platforms and see how other people are doing. They want to be like them. knowing fully well that their husband cannot or may not be able to afford what their other friends are having and they are being provided for. It becomes an issue too. A lot of marriages are also breaking up because people never got into the marriage because they love themselves.
Yeah.
They were in the marriage as a marriage of convenience because of the resources and other things that are attached to it. Then the moment things are not going the way it was going again, you begin to have them, breaking up and then staying away. And cultural secularization is another issue.
Please,
Before now, in our
you break that
community,
down?
yeah, you have, if you are from a particular area, you have a particular culture that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Now, because the society has opened up, a lot of cultures are mixing up. People are learning new things from the internet, from TV, from radio, how things are being done, how people get married and their husband is rich, and how they can work out of the marriage and they share the property. You see them begin to do things the way they ought not to have been doing things. So all these things become an issue, and issues that are contributing to marriage being broken and destroyed today. But in all, if whatever it is, you know that you've chosen to get in there, I believe there is no problem that cannot be resolved. If the two of you have your heart. I keep telling people, if you want to marry a woman, don't go for beauty, don't go for anything, just go for the heart of the woman, and the woman should go for the heart of the man. The moment your two hearts are linked up together, it will be easier to resolve issues when one occurs.
Yeah, and I think the couples also should, it applies to both couples now. They should be able to respect each other's rights. Yeah, because the man shouldn't think the woman is weaker, or the woman shouldn't think, because one, they should try as much to take out patriarchy, to take out domination, to take out oppression of each other. They should live as human beings.
But the Bible has outlined who should be the head in the home. Don't you think that some of these problems is because the women want to share that headship with their husbands?
Okay, for me, I really don't think so, because I believe love is not slavery. Because these days, if I'm married, for instance, let me say Mr. My face now, and and he begins to see me as subordinate, he begins to treat me as a slave.
Is it that you don't believe the Bible that the man is the head?
No, being the head does not mean you should treat your wife less. I don't see it that way, because I see being the head means that you lead the family in love, because when you love somebody, you won't slave the person, and you won't even hit the person. You won't even, we are talking about human rights here, you will not hit, you will not psychologically abuse, you will not financially abuse, you will just treat the person as a treasure, and I think everybody's fine.
Fine face. The man being the head of the home.
Yes, the man being the head does not mean you subject the woman to a subordinate, someone that you trample upon.
So what is headship here?
Headship means that the overall decision of the family, you will be the one to sanction it, not to take it to
Yes.
sanction. In political side, what we call veto power. You have the power to say approve, disapprove after it has been discussed. So the finance say, you have the finance say, but that does not mean that you don't give your family, your wife, that freedom of expression to deliberate and bring up that democratic process of letting everybody air his or her views on an issue before you take decision. Remember, if you don't allow her to air or him to air his or her views, you violate that person's rights to freedom of thoughts and expression. It becomes an issue. And the person, whatever issue thing that has happened, give that person that fundamental human right of fair hearing. The person must be given chance to talk and defend his or herself before you pass a judgment that will lead to another issue. It's very fundamental.
All right, the program is Women Voices for Peace, and today we're looking at human rights in the spirit of celebrating Human Rights Day that happened on the 10th of December 2019. And today one is deciding to dedicate today's edition to human rights in the home, human rights in the church, human rights in the society. How do we preserve these rights? Okay, we have our phone line 0908 220